You Can't Make This Shit Up with Paul Elam and Tom Golden. Episode 14, Woman, Thy Name is Privilege. Welcome, everyone. This is number 14 of You Cannot Make This Shit Up. And I'm telling you, Paul, you cannot make this shit up. It's just every time we find more and more. And some of them are, we got four doozies today. And we're going to start with one that is actually as sad as it is bizarre. Because it's an article from the Scientific American. Let me tell you a story about Scientific American. You know, when I was a little boy, my father was a scientist, and he'd always have Scientific Americans on the coffee table, and I'd go out and read as much as I could because, you know, in those days, the Scientific American magazines were built so that the first two paragraphs of any article could be read by almost anybody. Even young children could read it. And man, I used to love those, and I'd quit after two paragraphs. But I loved the magazine. But now, look what they've done to it, Paul. Here's the title: How to Fight Toxic Masculinity.
Oh, Jesus.
In Scientific American, the code of toxic masculinity requires that men are dominant over everyone else, have no needs, show no emotion, and are always winning.
The allegedly Scientific American, we're renaming the magazine.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I mean, this is a woman writing this, first off, but...
Oh, gee. So surprised.
But think about it. How could a scientific magazine have an article that slams and shames half the population without evidence? This woman gives no evidence that there's anything called toxic masculinity.
Or that all men try to dominate each other. I mean, there is a male hierarchy. I mean, Tom and I talk about this all the time. It's absolutely there.
Yes.
But the male hierarchy, one, doesn't mean true dominance in any sense of the word. It's more of an organizational matter. Sometimes it means dominance, but there's plenty of men who don't try to dominate anybody.
Yes. Yes.
And they fit in on another part of the spectrum.
Yes. And the other thing about toxic or about masculinity is that the hierarchy is there to serve women. You know?
Oh, and it also happens to serve mankind.
Yes, that's true too.
Like if
How about that?
Cure disease and go to the moon or to Mars or to defend our nation or any number of like really important things, it's male hierarchy that gets that shit done.
Yeah, no kidding.
And apparently all these idiots can see is, well, one guy is stronger than the other.
Oh, God. So listen to what she says, Paul. She says, but this scramble for dominance and denial of emotion comes at great cost. It blunts men's awareness of other people's needs and emotions. Okay? And I'm asking you, lady, where's your evidence for this?
Where is it?
Give me even a shred of evidence that might say that. It drives domestic and sexual violence. Okay.
We're back to Duluth model.
Where's your evidence for this?
This is 2019. We're using the Duluth model here.
Yeah, really. This is conjecture. This is not science.
Yeah.
Makes aggression look like a reasonable way to solve conflict. That's an odd one. Aggression sometimes is a good way to solve conflicts. Is it not?
It is a supreme way to solve some conflicts.
Yes.
You know, I tell you, if you're looking at what happened in World War II, there wasn't going to be any solution without conflict there, and that's happened a few other times throughout history. On the other hand, you look at the great statesmen of world history, the diplomats, the people that have solved problems, formed alliances, built all kinds of infrastructure. Has nothing to do, it has everything to do with cooperative working, everything to do with communication skills and with understanding both sides. Yes, and serving humanity. This is the predominant way that men operate. Of course, she's oblivious to this. What is this woman's name, by the way, Tom?
God, Paul, I was afraid you're going to ask me that. I don't have it right here. Give me 2 seconds and I'll find it. I feel like Janice.
For you, Tom, I've got 3.
Staffy psychologist Ellen Hendrickson.
savvy psychologist.
She calls herself the savvy psychologist, Ellen Hendrickson.
Sounds like she peddles her wares on the back of a fucking cereal box to me.
We'll put a picture up of Ellen. But you know, what Ellen's doing is she's going along with the flow of the culture. You know, the culture now says toxic masculinity, and so she goes along with that, and she gets printed in Scientific American.
And shame on them for that, by the way. I mean,
them for
that they published this drivel from her.
It's not science. It's just not science. Oh, and pours fuel on the fire of drug and alcohol abuse.
Yes, of course.
So she's blaming masculinity for that too. It's
yes, because women don't abuse alcohol and drugs.
Well, you can't make this shit up, man.
Yeah, you really can't.
First,
by
you
the
can't
way,
make up her article, and second, you can't make up that it got into Scientific American. I mean, it's just.
If I can, I'd like this to bleed over for a moment into our Regarding Men work that we do with Janice Fiamingo and the Regarding Men newsletter. We've started somewhat of a tradition with this. It's a little bit early to call it a tradition, but what we've begun over there as of last month or this month is to set up a psychotherapist of the month in honor of the practitioners of hate who are hiding behind mental health labels and actually practicing ideological hatred toward men. Yeah. This woman qualifies. I can just about guarantee you she will be the psychotherapist of the month for August. So look for that in the days ahead.
Yeah, sign up for the newsletter. You'll find out about it early.
Link below. That's right. You'll find out about it before anybody else does if you sign up and join the 5,000 strong that receive our newsletter every week.
And it really is a good piece. You know, each week, Paul, Janice, and I each put in some sort of article along with the Regarding Men video of that particular week. It's good. It's good. Come and join us.
And you can do that at regardingmen.com.
If you try and subscribe, it's going to send you a confirmation email. You've got to respond to that confirmation email in order to get on the list. So,
absolutely. If you signed up, by the way, and you have not been receiving newsletters from us, it's probably because you did not confirm your thing on there. So, like Tom said, you get the confirmation, just confirm it, and you'll be in every week. You'll get links to all kinds of material and stuff that you will not see anywhere else.
Yep, it's true. Come on and join us. And if you're not getting it, just sign up again. Sign up again. We'd love to see you.
Wait, back to the topic. One of the things I wanted to say about this is something you and I were discussing earlier, Tom. Feminists have an amazing knack to discover one factual thing.
Yes.
Like they can discern that, you know, there were restrictions on women for a long period of time, some of which were not restrictions that were placed on men. Like during the 50 or so years that men could vote, that women couldn't, during the short periods of time that men could own land, but women couldn't. And so they focus on that and they get one little kernel of truth and then they veer off into Crazyville very, very quickly and come up with theories that are just, well, it's just sort of like what Tom read you from this woman's article. Absolutely crazy, crazy stuff. She discovered the male hierarchy and looked at dominance theory and a few things like that. And then she took it into La La Land, to absolute craziness. That's what feminists do. They get enough of a truthful statement to have some semblance of plausibility and then heap bullshit on top of it until you can't recognize the truth anymore.
It's true.
And this is what's happened. Her words about domestic violence being fueled by masculinity and patriarchy. This is old Duluth model stuff.
Yeah.
And their idea is that domestic violence is defined by men asserting patriarchal privilege and bringing patriarchal power into the home. That is their whole contention. And their whole explanation for domestic violence is that this is the result of men doing this. Well, guess what? One female domestic violence perpetrator totally obliterates their theory of domestic violence. One single one does. because according to them, according to this woman's theory, it can only be men, and it's only an expression of men's power that's doing this. First of all, I just got to say, in most cases, Tom, that I've ever seen, violence was an expression of powerlessness.
Yes, exactly. It's when the masculine role falls apart.
Yes. And sometimes men are subject to abuse in psychological forms and feel no way to combat it and end up, unfortunately, becoming violent over it. That happens. And it's just like you see in inner city neighborhoods, which are just all but destroyed by violence. They're very violent places. That violence is an expression of powerlessness, not of power.
Right, right.
Powerful people don't need to be violent. They don't feel the impulse to be violent.
Right.
And no feminist ever examines any of this reality.
Right.
They see violence as power instead of powerlessness, which makes them dead wrong.
Yep, I agree.
And to see this in the Scientific American, you know,
heartbreaking.
When I was a kid, I loved that magazine.
Did you?
Yes, I loved that magazine.
I did too.
I can never look at it the same again.
I know.
It's very, very disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well. How about number 2, Paul? Where are we going?
How about number 2, man? Well, we have a woman. I know you're shocked that I'm starting this story with that particular words. We have a woman who's getting married. Not much of a great idea to begin with, but her deal is that she wanted a big fancy wedding. And so she actually quit her job so that she could plan this big fancy wedding, and then found, whoa, well, we can't really afford it.
Uh-oh.
So she tells her fiance, you need to get a second job after I quit my job so that you can pay for my big fancy wedding. And apparently he, for some reason, wouldn't agree.
No.
Yeah.
A slob?
He said no, the son of a bitch. He actually told her no.
Good for him.
What choice did she have but to turn to Reddit?
Oh.
Which she did. And she goes on Reddit to appeal for support from people who would understand how terrible this guy is for not being willing to get a second job. Why can't he just get a second job? You know, Tom, I mean, link below, you can read all about this. But when guys get on the internet and they say, I'd rather pay a hooker than waste my time with a woman.
Yeah.
And then people react sometimes by calling those guys loser.
Yeah.
These guys are just keeping current with the times.
Yeah.
I mean, how much bigger of a whore could you possibly be?
Yeah, and when you find out how much she was planning to spend on the wedding, it makes you even think it's worse.
Yeah, how much was it? Do you remember?
$8,000.
Yeah, $80K. Yeah, what was he going to do? Get a few hours in a week as a barista at Starbucks to help her?
Thinking, man, take the $80K, go buy a Carrera. You know, make yourself happy.
Take the $80K and ditch the bitch.
That's the idea. Get yourself a nice car.
Boy, I tell you, and it amazes me anytime I do this with people that aren't familiar with men's issues. I bring up the term women's entitlement, and they're like, "What? What? What entitlement? Women don't have entitlement. It's men. It's men that have entitlement. Yeah, they're entitled to go out and raise $80,000 for one day.
Oh God!
To create a memory when the divorce rate is 50%.
But she's dreamed about this since she was a little girl, Paul.
One thing I did, yeah, of course, yes. And this is something in one of your videos, Tom, I saw years ago.
Yeah.
Just nailed it. Marriage is the realization of women's dreams.
Yes, exactly.
Having someone take care of them, of getting their white picket fence and their catered shit and a baby and a bassinet and all the other things that come with that. Guys don't grow up dreaming of that shit.
No
they
kidding.
grow up dreaming of being pro athletes and adventurers and astronauts, and they want to go on expeditions. They want to go like on, long trips or in dangerous places. Those are their dreams. Those are their ambitions. They want to build things.
Yes.
And so marriage for them is an end to their dreams.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I don't remember which video it was, but you pointed this out in a video you did years ago.
Yeah, I'll link it below.
And guess what? This guy hadn't even married this bitch yet, and his dreams are already over.
Yeah, really.
Like, get your ass to work, punk.
Oh boy.
Now, so the only question remains whether or not this guy, this woman is throwing out red flags like it's an Oakland football game.
That's a whole store full of red flags.
Yes, it is. So the question is, will he be dumb enough to marry this hooker?
Oh man, I hope he can wise up, see the light.
I hope he can too. But
that's crazy, man.
You can't make this shit up. And the thing is, you can't make this shit up is about a lot more than just this one story. How many times is this story repeated?
Yes, exactly, Paul.
Over and over and over again throughout our culture. I mean, People are getting married less these days, thank God.
Yes.
But still, you can find plenty of businesses focused around the dreams of women and their weddings that are thriving, still making big money, cake makers, everything. I mean, come on. Some people spend a couple of grand on a cake.
Yes, and the wedding dress cost a huge amount.
And, the tradition is you freeze this one little slice of cake in the freezer and you get it out to thaw and eat it on your 1-year anniversary. Well, yeah, I'd say freeze the whole damn thing. I don't get it, Tom. I really don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
Why would any woman in the age of feminism feel like she's got a right to demand all this incredibly blind chivalry and sacrifice? Bitch, if you want an $80,000 wedding and you're already a hoe, go out there and get on your back and raise $80,000. I'm serious. I mean, if you're going to be a whore, do it all the way. Do it right. You can get your $80,000 pretty quick, guys. If you're halfway decent looking until your body wears out, they'll pay some decent money.
There you go.
And that way he doesn't have to break his back. You can just lay on yours.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's amazing how women want both. They want to be, feminists and be victims, but they also want all the goodies.
We asked women, are you special or are you equal? And they said, yes.
Exactly, Paul. Oh, God, exactly.
So let's move on from
number 3.
The wedding hoe.
Talk about happens thousands of times. This one is a real, oh my gosh. You can't make this shit up. Here's the title. She verbally consented to sex, but the school determined he committed sexual assault because he cajoled her with flattery.
Cajoled.
He cajoled her with flattery. Huh? And that's just the top part. I mean, it gets so much worse when you get into the details of things. I mean, you
don't understand. Flattery and force both start with F's. So look, my feminist logic tells me that makes sense.
I think you must have some feminist logic there. But these two met at the Schreier Honor School, which is a part of the University of Pennsylvania, I think. So they're both probably really good students. And that was the spring of 2017. And then January of 2018, they were in a computer lab together, and they kind of were flirting back and forth and sending text messages. And she got his phone and wrote things, a text message to herself about, I love you, and blah, blah, blah. So it was this little, blah, blah, blah bullshit. She spent time in his dorm room, and she'd come in and lay on his bed, and they'd talk, and blah, 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 right? So one night, January the 26th, I do believe, 2018, she calls him up and says, my roommate's not here. Come on over. And of course he goes, sounds good to me. So he beats the feet over to her place. They apparently start hugging, kissing, and a variety of sexual encounters transpire. And all of a sudden she says, stop. So he stopped. She said, wait a minute. She goes to the bathroom. And then she comes back from the bathroom. She gives him a condom. She says, go. You know? He says, okay. And so they have sex. Everything's good. And the next day she's texting back and forth with him about, oh, let's do this again, blah, blah, blah. She's texting her friends about how I'd like to have this guy fuck me again, you know, right? 6 months later, she accuses him of sexual assault. Oh, God. So the poor guy goes through this whole thing where she gets to talk about everything that's going on. She gets to bring in witnesses and whatever. He can't, bring witnesses. He can't cross-examine her. He can't cross-examine anyone. He can't even bring up new information at the hearing. And the hearing decided, well, yes, he is guilty of sexual assault. And we're going to put him on suspension from our school for 1 year.
Mind you also in this that what they did, this is, I mean, that alone is insanity. That alone is absolutely Gestapo level insanity.
Yes.
But what they did also was they added the clause of cajoling to their sexual abuse policy.
We're getting there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm telling Tom's story. Tom just told me to shut up.
Shut the fuck up.
I think I better do that.
So anyway, after the guy was pronounced guilty of sexual assault, one of the Title IX people, a guy apparently, said, well, what was the reason he was found guilty? He was questioning it, right? And so they came back to him after, I think it was a month or so, and said, well, the reason he was found guilty was because he was encouraging her with flattery. He was trying to get her to have sex by flattering her. And therefore, he was assaulting her, right? And so the guy goes to the school and says, you know, what's up with this? And the school, in the meantime, before the guy's second hearing, because he appealed the whole thing, right? Before his second appeal hearing, the school changed the rules. And now they add in that a part of sexual assault is if you flatter or cajole a woman, that is, you're guilty of sexual assault. So they added that in the ex post facto laws. They added that, and then he comes to the hearing, and boom, he's got this new thing that says he cajoled her. So he's suing him now. And I hope this guy makes a mint. You know,
I hope he does too.
Oh my gosh, Paul.
Because he'll never undo the damage that they've done.
You cannot make this stuff up. It's just so incredibly sad and bizarre that they would pull some shit like that.
And I want to add something to this, Tom, that I
add it on, baby.
That is just it really paints the picture of what's going on. You know, Donald Trump has done a lot with Betsy DeVos into changing things like the god-awful Dear Colleague letter, rescinding that. They rescinded that. And they have begun to overhaul what's wrong with universities. And there was a point, actually, because of the Dear Colleague letter, that I had a little bit of sympathy for university administrators because they were trapped between the funding, and the funding said, if you don't do all these things, we're going to withdraw your funding.
Right.
So there was part of me that understood, well, man, they're kind of screwed. You know, either way, if they pursue justice, they lose their money. Right. And if they don't pursue justice, then it turns into a witch hunt.
Right.
Well, they've rescinded the Dear Colleague letter, and these bastards are still doing this stuff.
Really?
They're still letting it happen.
Huh.
They have nothing mandated. It used to be that the university was mandated to do this stuff, to deny due process, to deny the guy the right to cross-examine and to present witnesses on his own behalf. That was stipulated in the Dear Colleague letter. Now, that's gone. They don't have to have those policies, and the sons of bitches are still doing it.
Yeah.
And that's why this young woman knew that she could make the flimsiest. She could have voluntary sex with a consenting adult, wait 6 months, and maybe he didn't return her call one day.
Exactly.
Or he didn't want to, maybe he got a girlfriend and it made her jealous. So, all of a sudden he's a rapist.
Yep.
And the university is standing by this insanity. I hope this guy sues them into the freaking dirt.
I hope so too. And it's just another example of what you call female entitlement. You know,
it absolutely is.
He's got all the power and he's got nothing. You know,
and it's disgusting, and you can't make it up. Yeah, I wish this were fiction. I really do, because it's so bad. It's funny, and at the same time, this is destroying lives.
Got to feel for this guy, man. You got to feel for him. That's just crazy.
And she'll never be punished.
Exactly. Talk about entitlement. There you go.
She should be punished.
She should be. She should.
And so should the school. Now, he may be able to extract a few million out of the school. I hope he does. Those suits in retaliation for the abuses are becoming more and more common.
Yes.
And so the universities are having to start to pay for this. But the women who make the accusations, you know, Emma Solkowitz ran around lying for 2 years.
Yep.
Nothing ever happened to her.
Yep.
And it should have.
Yep.
Should have paid with her future.
Yes.
But
how about number 4? What do we got?
Number 4 is titled, "I'm a bust a cap in this motherfucker." Some woman.
Oh, God.
This story starts with a woman.
That's a bad start. Some woman.
A woman walks into the Department of Motor Vehicles, affectionately known as the DMV, in Kansas City. I don't know if it was on the Kansas City, Kansas side or the Kansas City, Missouri side, but it was in one of those Kansas City DMV offices. And she walks in the place, like most DMV, totally ineptly, inefficiently run offices of driver's license, is chock full of people. The woman starts screaming about the crowd and needing to be seen right away. And they're telling her, "No, you have to wait." She muttered something very paranoid, skitsy, like something about the president's security detail was being undermined. Who knows what was going through this woman's mind? But she walks out the door and had made such a scene that another woman followed her out. She wanted to get her driver's license plate number. And the woman walks outside and screams a couple more times and pulls a pistol out of her purse and starts shooting in the air.
Oh.
Now, look, I got to say, I can relate a little bit, having been to DMV hell in Houston a few times in all the 35 years that I lived there.
Yeah.
You go in there, it's wall-to-wall people. The only chairs are occupied by the spreading asses of state employees. So you stand there for 2 hours and wait your turns for some smug, snotty employee of the state to issue your driver's license and take your picture. I understand the anger. I understand the frustration of the wait. However, I never thought the appropriate response involved a handgun. Apparently the police were called and the woman was arrested. We don't know if anything will happen to her.
They'll let her go.
But there's some level, and again, we can't tell in a case like this how much of this is this woman's psychosis, because that statement about the president's security detail is a bit of a giveaway for paranoid schizophrenia. On the other hand, it could have been just some crazy bitch, a normal kind of crazy, who just decided to take her anger out with a handgun.
Yes.
Shooting in a place in a building that they say, by the way, was filled with young infants and children of all ages waiting with their parents. That could have turned out real bad, but the police showed up pretty quickly. She was arrested before she was able to get in her car to leave. But what happened after the arrest, whether she was, now, if she were male, we know straight to the clink with them, or right under it, because, that is a place where state police work.
Yep.
So you go waving a gun around a place that state employees or state police work, you're going to go to under the jail if you're a man.
Yep.
With a woman, I suspect they probably said this is a mental health case. but that's just pure conjecture on my part, Tom. I don't know what
You're probably right. Again, female entitlement.
You can't make this up.
Yeah,
is right.
Crazy. Yeah, I've been there too. It's really frustrating with long lines, but you can't pull out your handgun.
No. I thought it was a pretty good idea not to take mine with me going to state offices.
Yeah, that's a good idea not to take it.
Yeah, don't take your gun with you to the DMV.
No.
It's not necessary.
Necessary.
They're not looking for a pose like this on your picture.
Oh, God. Oh, she's a mess. It will be curious to see. We'll have to give updates in the next You Can't Make This Shit Up about what happened to her.
I'll try to follow the story. Sometimes it's hard, especially when it's a woman that has done something wrong. Following up on the news stories about it, because one, they did not put her name in the story.
Oh, they didn't?
No, her name is not in the story. The name of the witness is in the story.
Huh.
But I read that pretty carefully, and I don't think the link's below. Somebody's welcome to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think her name was anywhere in the story. She was just referred to as a woman, which if it was a man, his name would have been in that story.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But it says it wouldn't be in there.
Yes.
And so it's going to be kind of hard to follow, but I already have set a Google alert.
Oh, have you?
Woman's Kansas City DMV gun.
Yeah, good.
See what happens. But usually when women do wrong things, I wish we could study this sometimes, they don't follow up the stories like they do with men.
Nope. Nor does the police, nor do the judges. Nobody follows up the story.
Or the prosecutors.
62% longer sentences for men. 62%. Come on.
Which is like 6 times greater than it is between black and white.
Yes. A lot people make a lot about the 10%, or I think it's maybe 12% racial disparity. But man, you look at men and women, it's huge. It's huge.
And you only get a disparity that size by not following up on a lot of cases anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Dropping charges after arrest, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Happens to women all the time.
Yeah. Plea bargains that are sweet deals.
And of course they wonder, it seems like women are committing a lot more violent acts. I wonder why. Patriarchy.
Of course that's right, Paul.
Yes, it is. It's not because we enable them.
Yeah, those 4 syllables, it explains everything.
What was it? What was that woman's name? The Duke rape liar?
Oh, Crystal
Gail Mangum.
Yeah.
She should have been put in prison for what she did, because you know what? If she hadn't, she wouldn't have been able to later murder her boyfriend.
I know.
She did end up in, and that's a perfect example. You've got an absolute felon on your hands, dragging the state and everybody else through all kinds of investigation that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more.
Probably more.
Turns out she's a pathological liar, and everybody, including this asshat prosecutor, Mike Nifong, treated it as a mental health case. And he went ahead with this bad prosecution. What they do to him? They suspended his law license.
Yeah, good.
For a day, no time in jail.
Yeah.
But she ends up murdering her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Which could have been prevented if the law had been willing to punish a woman to begin with.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But, as we say, you can't make that shit up.
You can't. And thus ends number 14 of You Can't Make That Shit Up.
Then number 10, 4. I think I did 24 at the beginning of this, and I know somebody's going to call me on that in the comment. I'm correcting myself now. 10, 4.
10-4, Eleanor.
Yeah, 10-4, Eleanor.
That's right. Okay. All right.
You got to remember.
Men are good.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
No relationships is good too.
Take care. See you next time.
Bye-bye.